Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras here with ILTV's Morning Briefing. The votes are in and the ballot counts are nearly complete as the final results of the United States midterm elections stream out, and it looks like the Democrats have retaken the House of Representatives while the Republicans retained the Senate. The outcomes were very close though, with the final tally still pending as of this report, but for now at least the Democrats have claimed 222 seats in the House of Representatives against the Republicans' 199. And Republicans in the Senate expanded upon their majority with 51 seats to the Democrats' 45. Many view the results as a win for the Trump administration, though, as it at least held on to the upper house of Congress, preventing what could have become a lame duck period for his presidency. But still, with a Democratic majority now in the lower house, it's likely that most bills being brought up through the government will at least begin with language the American political left prefers. The Democrats will now also be more capable of blocking Republican Party-supported legislation, as well as wielding subpoena power within the Congress, paving the way for major opposition against the president's aides and unilateral decisions. Chief among the topics they reportedly intend to target first are the Iranian nuclear deal, which President Trump pulled out of in May, and alleged Russian collusions in American government. Many Israel advocates, however, are apprehensive with the new results, as several candidates like Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who are seen as hostile to the Jewish state, were elected. Tlaib, who ran unopposed in Michigan, has called for defunding Israel's military assistance programs and has even endorsed a one-state solution for the Israel-Palestinian conflict. Time will tell how their rhetoric on the campaign trail will translate into action. But in other news, this election was also a record setter for American women, as more women have now been voted into office in the United States than ever before. The IDF is now setting up to partially demolish the home of BARKAN industrial zone terrorist Ashraf Walid Suleiman Na'alawa a month after his deadly shooting attack claimed the lives of 2 Israelis. On Tuesday, the head of IDF's Central Command issued the demolition orders for the 2-story home where Na'alawa lived in the West Bank village of Shuwaika, and the order comes after Na'alawa's family's appeal to the court against the demolition was struck down. Meanwhile, the families of the victims, Kim Levengon Yechezkel and Ziv Hajbi, along with hundreds of Israelis, marched to the Balkan Industrial Park calling for severe reprisal measures against the terrorist. Levengon Yechezkel's father, Rafi, said, quote, "We demand the death penalty for terrorists," end quote, and Hajbi's brother Tal criticized the IDF for issuing a demolition order for the terrorist's basement and ground floor, but not for the whole house. He said, quote, "A partial demolition of the terrorist's home is unacceptable. The whole home must be razed," end quote. The Israelis in the march were draped in Israeli flags while holding signs of the victims' faces and names, all while they chanted, quote, "Death to terrorists." Many also zip-tied their hands together to highlight the gruesome state in which Yechezkel was found after being shot dead. IDF troops are still searching for Na'alawa, who has been on the run since killing his co-workers on October 7th. The new list of renewed American sanctions against Iran have been imposed and publicly detailed now, much to the chagrin of the hardline Islamic regime. These sanctions particularly target Iran's booming oil industry, which is a vital source of income for their struggling economy, which has sunk over the past year, causing massive inflation. Still, the White House insists that the sanctions are not intended to overthrow the government, but rather to cripple Iran's oil-dependent economy, force Iran to dispose of its nuclear ambitions, and persuade it to stop supporting regional terror proxy groups. The sanctions cover 50 Iranian banks and subsidiaries, the shipping sector, Iran's national airline, over 65 of its aircrafts, and Iran's atomic energy organization. As for the countries given temporary exemptions, they will now have to deposit all revenue into an escrow account, which Tehran will only be allowed to use for humanitarian purposes. United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo discussed the waivers, which were issued to countries which have already cut purchases of Iranian crude oil over the past 6 months. But in light of the new sanctions, Iranian President Rouhani has warned that, quote, "We are in the economic war situation. We are confronting a bullying enemy. We have to stand to win," end quote. He then compared Iran's current situation involving the United States with the war against Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein in the 1980s. Military drills have also been reportedly ramped up. Finally, Rouhani also claimed that 4 powers met with Iran in September during the United Nations General Assembly to attempt to salvage the deal. Although he did not name the countries, authorities speculate that they are China, France, Russia, and Britain, who have all already made their criticisms of the White House's actions clear. It may not look like much to you or me, but what you're looking at are 2,000-year-old engravings left upon the walls of a Roman period water cistern. The carvings were discovered by the Israel Antiquities Authority in Beersheba during an archaeological dig in preparation for a construction project, and they include images of ships and zoomorphs. The cistern itself is roughly 5 by 5.5 meters wide and 12 meters deep, and it includes a hewn and plastered staircase leading to the bottom. The walls of the cistern were also covered in plaster where the thinly engraved lines were discovered, and according to rock art and graffiti expert at the IAA, Dr. Davida Eisenberg-Degen, 13 ships were engraved with actual technical details, suggesting a real working knowledge of ship construction too. Eisenberg-Degen added that the cistern likely served a Roman residence nearby and was maintained and used all the way through the modern era. It was dirty and filled with some sediment, but among the ancient carvings, some ceramic shards and ammunition shells dating back to World War I were also found.
That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.